I forgot to. Yeah, I forgot what I was doing. Yes, you were walking around here.
I was I was taking the high road.
Yeah, because we don't want to be
I wasn't.
there.
I was trying to avoid it.
Let's see how the bottom of your shoes are.
They are rubber, so
They're
I'll
clean.
make it through, but I was putting it off.
So they're very clean. And with these clean shoes, I ask
Lay it on me.
you, what is your favorite book?
Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut.
God, that was fast.
Who doesn't know their favorite book? You've got to
Many
have that
people.
ready at the
Many
go.
people. We've asked many, and they did not know. So, Sirens?
Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut. It was my dad's favorite book, it's my sister's favorite book, and it's my favorite book.
What do you like about it? Or what do you think gets you about?
Well, I'm going to say the ending, but I can't explain it to you. That would ruin the book. But it's also just a book that's about a whole journey of a life. I don't know. I really like a book where it feels like at the end of it, I don't know, you've gone so many places and you've touched so many lives. And the characters that Kurt Vonnegut creates they're really beautiful. They're really beautiful people.
You get to feel their pain in a way that is kind of painted but through the person.
There's a character called
Vonnegut.
Boaz, who I think is kind of the perfect example of this. I'm not going to tell you too much about him, but where he ends up, he refuses to leave in the end, even though he can escape where he is, and he'll never meet another human being. But what he says to the main character is, I found me a place where I can do good without doing any harm.
Say that again.
I found me a place where I can do good without doing any harm. And that was somebody who lived a life of like abuse and violence and is now choosing to live in isolation among beautiful things, but feels he is there to do good by himself. And it's very beautiful, and I love it.
But he's too hurt to risk hurting. Like, he doesn't want to be around other people because he's scared of hurting other people.
He doesn't want to be used anymore by the machine that abducted him. It's science fiction, so there's a lot going on there. But yeah, and the moral of the story at the very end is that the meaning of life is to be loved by anybody who's around to be loved. And I think that's also really nice. God,
hearing you say that is touching me. Yeah. I think I'm recently discovering like the beauty that exists in fiction. I used to try to read books only to get information that would then help me in some way to, move forward into like some forward. And now I see like the beauty of these little moments in books, little phrases that stick with you. And yeah, that I'm so Kurt Vonnegut gives you a lot of those little nuggets.
He's a genius, and it's the most beautiful book in the world. I can't recommend it enough, and it's pretty short too. I think it's like 200 and something pages, so it won't cost you very much of your time, but you learn a lot and you love a lot, and it's a big adventure, and it's science fiction. And it's a good time. I recommend it.
And the last question, like any books you other books. So you mentioned Kurt Vonnegut, but other books that have touched you.
Ooh, well, see, now that one's a
like
little bit
recommendations,
more
basically.
Ooh, So Sad Today by Melissa Broder.
Okay.
She had I don't know almost anything about this woman except that she had a Twitter account called So Sad Today that was anonymous, where she just posted little sad things about her life and people related to it. It got to be very big. And my friend basically forced this book on me, and it's a series of personal essays about her life that I read like a week ago, and it changed, I don't know, it changed me in the way that feelings and experiences that I could never have put words to, she does really beautifully, and with so much grace and comedy and vulnerability. She has one essay about, and stay with me here, her vomit fetish. And now, while that's not a thing that I share, but she talks about what sexuality means and to share that, and I don't know what is at the core of that for her. What it means to her to be comforted and to want to comfort others. That is the root of her sexuality. But it's also not something she shares with partners. It was really touching and vulnerable and funny in ways that I haven't seen a lot of other places. So I highly recommend So Sad Today by Melissa Broder.
How did the vomit connect to that?
That's like her when she's by herself and masturbating. Like, that's her fantasy. She has a couple specific.
Someone like vomiting on her,
or somebody vomiting and she gets to comfort them, or she's the one being comforted. I promise it's not nearly as weird as it sounds. It's actually really.
Don't worry,
beautiful.
we've heard some weird things today. So.
But that one is one I keep coming back to about, I don't know, what is intimacy and what do we expose to each other when we're being sexual and when we're being vulnerable and when we're being loving. And vomiting is like sort of the most like, I don't know, vulnerable thing you can do.
It is a vulnerable thing.
Like you're in such a weak position, and for somebody to still love you when you're disgusting and weak is very special.
And I don't think that's something people think about often, like comfort and comforting, like the idea of comfort and comforting when in relation to sexuality. It's not that's not really talked about, but that's it's very interesting. All right, we will not go into, we could digress, but yeah, we'll end it there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. That was fun. What was your name?